You very much Voice of Job Seekers podcast and live stream. We are live streaming to LinkedIn, Twitter, and we're going to have something for YouTube for tomorrow morning to premiere. And so, if you want to see that on YouTube, you can go ahead and subscribe to that channel under Mark Anthony Dyson. Really easy to find. Welcome, and I hope things are going well in your area of the country or the world, wherever you are. You can mention the chat. We're just going to be here for a few minutes talking about job search trends, and Norma Davila at PhD. That's the only one I'll use because he has just so many letters. I think I'm in school. But I want to welcome Norma. She is a career coach and a career expert. She's been involved in books. She's done lots of press. She's meant a lot of contributions to the career world and the career space. Welcome to the show, Norma. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Mark. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. And you're coming to us from Puerto Rico, correct?
That's right.
That's right. One of these days I'm going to be able to pronounce it correctly. It's really Puerto as opposed to Porto. But,
Yes.
me and my New York, Chicago, Florida, Michigan accent, we get all those things jumbled up and it comes out wrong every time. So
It's okay.
excuse me for that. But again, this is the Voice of Job Seekers podcast. And we're just going to talk a few minutes with Norma about job search trends that she's seeing and she's seeing with her clients, and she's been to a few conferences, and we got a chance to meet at one of those conferences in
That's right.
Philadelphia recently. So we got a chance to talk a little bit. So really, Norma, you're looking at some things that are going on in the career space globally as well as with your clients.
That's right.
What's one or two things that you've been seeing recently that you've been kind of helping your clients navigate through this space?
Sure. I'm glad that you're pointing out the fact that it's locally as well as globally, because I do
Hmm.
have clients in Puerto Rico and stateside for the most part.
Hmm.
So it's an interesting combination of groups that I happen to be serving. However, I'm seeing very similar trends in terms of the aging population wanting to stay in the workforce. And by aging, I mean
Hmm.
anybody over 50. I myself
Hmm.
am part of that group. For some
Well,
reason,
I am too. So same club.
one of the things that we have in common, among others. And
Hmm.
for some reason, I'm finding that people around that age group gravitate towards my coaching services. And I've found that many of them either want to stay, change in the workforce, doing what they've been doing, or doing something
Hmm.
else, but they don't have a clue of how to approach it. And that's where
Yeah,
people like me come in.
gotcha. So really, yeah, aging is a big concern for the most part because a lot of them had to get out of the workforce,
That's right.
and then realizing what the economy and inflation begin to do, they want to
Hmm.
get back in.
Yes. But they may not want to be doing the same thing. They may not know what else they can do. They may not feel comfortable accepting those challenges they have, or they haven't even thought about them. So some of them come to me telling me things like, I've never interviewed in my life. I always got selected. I got called for. How do I approach this thing that I've heard it's changed, but I don't quite know how to approach it? Which, in a way, are the same concerns that somebody just joining the workforce may be facing, only that a lot of my clients think that age is going to be a bigger deal against them than it can actually be.
Yeah, it's hard to tell whether they are or not, but for the most part, when companies have talent issues and they're unable to get the talent that are available in the market that they would like to get, some of them are not turning back to and saying, "Come back to the workforce," to the older
Exactly.
ones. They're very hesitant to. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, it's a matter of how we position ourselves in the market. And I think that also the networking, the connections, the letting people know us as we are. This is what I've got. I'm not going to pretend to be 20. I'm not 20 anymore. I don't want to be 20 anymore. But this is the experience that I bring from working however many years in whatever area. And this is what I can bring to your business to solve those pain points. Once I get my clients to go beyond, I'm not competing with the 20-year-olds. I'm with the 50-year-olds and I have a lot of experience that can be valuable. And if that's not it for that company, then move on. They're more comfortable with the whole process and their interviews flow a lot better. So they're more likely to get those opportunities and to get those offers. And I think
So
also
how are
it's
you?
important. Yes, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, ask you, how are you preparing them for that type of success, and what are you doing particularly to help changing their perception and their positioning for them to get out there and be a little bit more successful this time?
It's a great question because that's the biggest challenge that I have with them. And I have to tailor my approach individually. Since the first step is okay, let's get at what do you know, who you are, what you want to do. Forget about requirements, forget about what's out there. Let's focus on you. And that takes them to have a deeper look at everything they've done. Let's focus on the positives. Let's focus on what you have. Oh, but I don't know. We're not going to be going there. If there's
Yeah, and
something
they
you need,
want, and many times they want to broaden their spectrum, so they think, well,
yes.
I'll take anything. You go, no, 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 don't
No,
do that,
don't.
please.
No, please, let's stay within what you know and what you can do. And if we need to transfer skills, we'll work on those. But also, something else that you've just mentioned, or hinted at rather, is some of them approach me like, oh, but I didn't finish this degree. I'm going to go for that certification or that whatever. So, one of my recommendations is always take it slowly. Going to school, dumping a lot of money into an experience is not necessarily going to mean your key to success. And if you're going to go for certifications, make sure that those are recognizable and transferable in different markets because you don't know where you're going to end up, either working in person or remotely, like I work for the most part.
Yeah, I like the idea of hacking knowledge, essentially, because what these programs that you're talking about, college and whether you get a
Hmm.
master's or even some certification programs are quite expensive.
Yes.
There are things that you could do to hack that process, and we have a lot of those things at our fingertips, right? We have YouTube,
Hmm.
we have Udemy, LinkedIn
Exactly.
Learning offer a lot of those courses. If you can show the acumen and you're adept at different types of learning, you can actually make yourself and position yourself in such a way that you don't need that, but these skills that I have now, and plus what I've learned just recently, will translate to what the employer will need.
Yeah, and it's not only paid employment because a lot of my clients have done a lot of volunteer work, board work, all kinds of non-paid experiences that still help them to develop those skills needed in the workforce. So it's openness, is knowing themselves, is knowing how far I'm willing to go to get this, and then getting into the mind frame of going for it, meeting people, and showing that because I'm wearing glasses and I'm over 50 doesn't mean that I'm dated and I'm willing to learn,
Absolutely.
just like you're saying.
Absolutely. And of course, they can follow you on LinkedIn to find out more information as you begin, because you kind of post regularly, at least 2 or 3 times a week, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
and
yes,
that they can follow you or they can even approach you to ask you questions or even get to your services, correct?
absolutely. And I'll be glad to answer questions and brainstorm and even share stories either of my clients or of my own reinventions over
Right,
time
right.
together.
And those stories are quite helpful too, because I think a lot of people tend to do that. And I like it
Mhm.
when people are even more focused with their stories and saying that there's actually a point to me telling you why I do this and do that. And that's really much more helpful. But is there anything coming up that you should know, or that people should know about you and what you've got coming up?
Well, one of the things that are coming up is that I'll be posting more frequently, and
Hmm.
that is a way to get more information on interviewing and coaching, on resumes, and those basic tools that are not the only thing people are going to be needing to do their job search. Also, my business partner and I got published in the Association for Talent Development's handbook. We have a chapter on
Okay,
onboarding. So that was just
awesome.
launched last week, and we're excited about it.
Excellent. Excellent. I know it's an exciting time too, isn't it?
Yes.
And people can also see some of the photos that you were able to post in attending the conference as well. Annette
That's right.
Richmond, my good friend Annette Richmond, thank you for commenting. She says, "I know so many successful people without a degree." That's true. And I was just talking to a colleague of ours. I won't mention her name because she hasn't made public knowledge, but she
Mhm,
was telling me that how her son came right out of high school
mhm.
and is on the verge of capturing a job for $23 an hour without a degree,
Wow.
just graduating. Now,
Mhm,
of course, there's some thinking that needs to be behind that, but it was pretty much premeditated. He knew exactly what he wanted and how he wanted to
mhm.
position himself, and even down to the letter of them talking about, interviewing. But I think that's how people should really get down to the very deep root of what they want, is to think about in detail how they need to look at it and how they need to position themselves and how they need to appear in front of employers.
Exactly. And at the beginning of our conversation this morning, you mentioned the long list of letters after my last name, and I must point out, no, I see it as a positive part of what the workforce is undergoing right now. Because
Mhm.
in my generation and that of many of my clients, if you didn't have X, Y, or Z degree, you didn't qualify for whatever. It may look like you're overqualified if you have different degrees. So it's how you use those credentials depending on what's required and what you need to be doing to come across as an expert in your area, regardless of the degree. The degree may open the door, but you may not have a clue of your field still. So what
Right.
do you do
Well,
after that?
right, I know. Well, Norma, thank you very much for joining me here on the podcast and the live stream. I hope things will continue to go well with you. We'll be in touch, and hopefully, people will follow you. And if you've been watching the stream, her link is
Mhm.
right there for you to just press follow if you will, or connect with her. Just send her a note as you're connecting with her, so that way she knows how you found her and the reason why that maybe you might be interested in following her. She's just a great resource. So just go ahead and follow her because of that very reason. For the rest of you, thank you very much for joining me on the Voice of Job Seekers podcast and live stream again. I'm going to be here every now and then with stuff during the summer and then getting ready for the fall for the podcast, and that you can get it in iTunes and Spotify and many other places. Thank you very much. And you guys have a great day. Peace in the Valley of Love.